that in a long time. Thank you, Shelley. That was an excellent introduction. I think it's been almost 3 years since I was last at one of these events, and things are very different, right? I mean, I'm looking around, and I don't remember this many people here last time, and I don't remember the caliber of people here last time that's here right now, and it's definitely due to the subject matter. When I heard that we were going to do a session and a summit solely focused on video, I was really, really excited to attend. And when I was asked to contribute, I was even more excited. So thank you, and I'm happy to be here. And this event could not come at a better time in our business. We are literally a few short months away from what will be the most competitive television upfront in the history of our business. It's going to be the most competitive, and it's going to be the most complicated. And that's a good thing, and it's not because of the normal, everyday economics behind supply and demand, right? What makes it complicated is everything has changed, right? Television is much more today about everything that I think we're going to hear in this show, and the theme of the show, and what Shelley mentioned in his keynote, and what Brian just talked about, and Adam after me. I think you're going to find that all of us are going to echo a similar theme, and that's good. But what we've learned is that the television business is much greater than just putting an ad on a 30-second spot at 9 o'clock or 9 p.m. and 30 seconds on Grey's Anatomy. So I am not going to go through an entire PowerPoint presentation. In my 14th year on the agency side, I hate it. I hate PowerPoint. I'm tired of it, and I'm sick of it, and nobody really wants to hear it. So we're going to do the entire discussion off of one page. And why this is so important is because the impact, we've been talking for years and years and years about what's changing in the television business, how the video business is evolving, all based on technology, right? Technology, finally, after all these years of discussion, has now empowered the television business to do so many things that we've never thought about before. Now, if you go back 2, 3, 4 years, we will have talked about a lot of these subjects, and we will have talked about how television has become more about the web, and how it's going to become more addressable and more accountable and more measurable, and they've all been true to an extent, but I think 2012 is finally going to be the year that we're actually going to start talking about it. But in order to really bring television to fruition and really to get the most out of the television business, that $82 billion business, it's going to require a collaboration of everybody in this room. Everybody in the room needs to sit under one umbrella to make this happen, because it's not just the legacy television guys that are going to keep this business going for the next 5 to 10 years. To bring to life what Brian was just talking about is going to take a lot more than just the television guys, and I can say that because I report to a television guy. So I think this event's really important. So let's go home, we turn on our televisions, and you look to the left on this chart. 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, we're always going to be able to pick up our remote control and watch ABC on television. That's never, ever, ever going to change, right? The television business is stronger than ever, and it's going to exist in the spots and dots to some extent the way it always has been. But what's changing is the technology behind it, right? We believe right now that there are between 48 and 52 million television sets in the United States that have the ability to connect to the internet. Right? We believe that there's between 18 and 21 million of those sets that are actually connected and actually being used on a regular basis. And that's a really, really good thing, because what we're going to start to see over the next 18 to 36 months is a lot of the major television players starting to bring their content available on these connected television sets, along with every other device that we're going to talk about in a few minutes and over the course of the day. And that's a good thing, right? The viewing of television programming is not, so what if it cannibalizes the television business? If we look over the past couple of years, we've seen overall television viewing increase, but viewing on its linear stream actually decreased by a couple of points. And by 2015, we actually believe, this is our own internal forecast, that 15% of all television video viewing is going to exist outside the linear stream. And that happens today, right? You can watch an episode of Grey's Anatomy on 7 different screen formats. You can watch it on its linear format on the network when it airs. You can watch it recorded from a DVR. You can watch it on set-top box-based VOD. You can watch it on a full episode player. You can watch it on a smartphone, a tablet, and a connected television. So as we go into this year's upfront, the most important thing that we need to think about as advertisers, as marketers, as agencies, as publishers, as how do we work with this as one, right? That 2007 idea of follow the consumer across every screen, that's crap, right? It doesn't work anymore. We would have to double or triple our advertising budgets in order to just follow them across. What we need is that one consistent form of measurement so that we can accurately account for our television impressions across all these various different screens and look at them accordingly. And connected televisions are going to help us do that. So you're going to read a lot about how these connected sets and devices are hurting the television business. We believe just the opposite. We believe they're helping the television business, because once that set is now connected to the internet, that gives us a whole new array of metrics and forms of measurement and ways to account for television. So just think, today, as we speak, 20 million sets that are connected and have the ability to stream video from the internet and watch in your home, on TV, as TV. By the time we're halfway through the upfront, that's probably going to hit 26 or 27 million, which is over 20% of every US TV household. And that's important, and we need to start thinking about it now. So the aspect of targeting within television, that's an interesting one, right? And we've been talking about it for years. One of the biggest problems with the television business is we ask 20,000 people what they watch on television. We assume the other 114 million watch exactly the same. We buy networks and programs based on what those 20,000 people say they're watching. We put the ad up, the people that we want see it, and the people that don't want see it. And we call it a day, and we spend billions and billions of dollars. And that has to change. The idea of targeting and addressability is what's going to become the future of the television/video business, and it's going to come in different formats. One format that I want to spend 2 minutes on is how addressability now impacts the linear television business. Never mind connected televisions or devices or alternative screens. There are now 18 million US television households where we have the ability to insert specific commercials to specific households and send only the commercials to the households we want and ignore the homes that we don't. And that's really, really, really important in the television business, because that is going to improve our return on our investment by improving our targeting and reducing and eventually eliminating our waste. And that's the problem in television. It works really, really, really well, but if it with a little bit better targeting and a little bit less waste, it will work a whole lot better. We'll see some advertisers spending more, some spending less, new advertisers coming in. And what I mean by hyper-targeting in television is very similar to what we've been doing in direct mail for 20 years, and very similar to what's been pioneered with display in the ad network space, and now what's happening in the video space. We now have 7 of our biggest advertisers that are exploring this, to where we've identified specific TV households based on age, gender, income, presence of children, credit scores, customer versus non-customer. We took a major telecommunications company and we identified who their customers were versus who their non-customers were and messaged accordingly. We took a major credit card company where we identified households that make over $250,000, that have a credit score of over 750, and we sent just the commercials to those homes, and we ignored everybody else. Now, this stuff sounds relatively simple to do on the internet, but that's easy to do when you're working with new technology and an infinite number of impressions. When you work in the linear television business and you're back to one single unit, this creates complexity. But this is something that over the past 3 to 5 years, we've spent probably $200 million of WPP's money on technology and infrastructure and data systems and people to help bring this to life. At 18 million now, by the time 2012 is done, that will be 25 million households that we will be able to hyper-target, cherry-pick, identify, and message directly to the right consumer with the right message at the right time and at the right frequency. And this is something that almost every single television advertiser can benefit. Major CPGs can buy up a unit and message accordingly to the actual audience that they want, as opposed to the waste. Small advertisers will be able to identify that 2-3% of the United States send the commercials only to them and ignore everyone else. This is something we've been talking about for a long, long time. I mean, it was pioneered back in the mid-90s, but think 18 million households today, 26 million households by the end of the year, real. So that's the targeting part of television, and that's the part that we're hoping we get right first, right? But once we get the right message to the right household, now we want to use technology to increase engagement. And that's when we talk about interactive television. Another thing that we've been talking about for a long time, but there are now 76 million TV households that have the ability to click on a specific television commercial and link through to a piece of video, a request for more information, or an actual virtual channel, which is the equivalent of a website on television. I look in the audience and I see so many pioneers of the internet space, and we look back in 98, 99, 2000, when our advertisers didn't have websites, we built microsites, or we built splash pages or jump pages. Same thing what we're doing here, only we're building it within the set-top box. So we probably have 25 to 30 of our advertisers where we buy a schedule, the viewer clicks on the commercial, it takes them through to a virtual channel where they can watch video, request information, play games. And what we're finding is that the viewers are spending between 9 and 23 minutes with the actual branded virtual experience. So that's really, really, really important. And over the past 3 months, we've actually been able to join the two. We've been actually able to identify certain clusters of households that index high against a specific target audience, and then give that, hence the targeting, and then give the viewer the opportunity to click on that ad and link through to this virtual experience, hence the additional engagement. And that's really, really, really important to our business. Because once you're in an interactive environment, the measurement becomes very, very significant. We get past a post, we get past the 18 to 20,000 homes, we get past the Nielsen ratings, and we start to actually look at things like retention. How much time did someone spend with our television spot before they tune away? We get to start to look at set-top box data, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes, but we get to start to look at the actual demography of the people watching the commercial as opposed to just the people that are watching the particular program. And this is all things that have been pioneered over the past few years, but we believe we'll see a significant shift in revenue in this current 2012 year. The problem with this stuff is that any type of advanced television product that you'll hear from anybody today or at previous events is it exists within the local television avails. It exists within each cable and satellite system, and that's a little bit problematic because the national television advertiser buys all this television weight, and we hope in the future we will be able to buy this weight from these television networks, and we will be able to get targeting, addressability, interactivity, and pure set-top box data. And we're working towards that now, and we're going to see some of that this year. But for now, we are still working silo by silo by silo, and that's a little bit dysfunctional, but it still does have value. Fast forward 3 years to when we're talking not 21 million connected sets, but we're talking 50 million connected sets. Well, now that changes everything because these connected televisions and devices have the ability to read a watermark on a television commercial. So we could take a national television spot, and for the homes that have a connected television or device, they could actually see an overlay that says, click to receive more information, click to enter my virtual application. And that's not that far away. We started to explore national interactivity in the early part of last year, and this was long before Canoe really came up with a product, and this was what Canoe was designed to do. And they went out of business because the product was very simple, and it really wasn't what the industry was needed at that particular time. But you take televisions connected to the internet, advanced set-top boxes that are equipped with hardware and software, and you take participating content providers, and now we have what's getting close to the future of the television/video business. Now we get to one of the most important parts, and that's the analytics and measurement metrics side of it, because we've been just handicapped to Nielsen demography for so many years. In the television space right now, we're finally able to make sense of set-top box data. It's been around for a while, but it's been in small pockets here, there, that have been non-statistically relevant sample of the United States. We now have a huge sample that we can start to actually utilize. The first thing that we're utilizing it for most of our advertisers in this coming upfront is we're talking to them about commercial avoidance. By the time we get to this upfront, we all know there's going to be 50% of the United States of America that will have a DVR, a device that can skip through a commercial. And advertisers are worried about what happens. Now, we know with the commercial rating system, if somebody doesn't see our television commercial, we don't actually pay for it. That's fine, but that doesn't mean we actually are reaching them. If people are skipping our commercials, we're not reaching them. So then we have two choices. We can reach them in the other areas on all the various different screens, which we'll talk a little bit about. But the first and foremost important concept is to figure out how many of these people we're not reaching. We can today, right now, use set-top box data and look at the actual delivery of an advertiser's commercial schedule in DVR homes and in non-DVR homes. And what we're finding is that in the DVR homes, you lose a little bit of reach, you lose a little bit of frequency, you lose a couple of GRPs, but the variance in overall reach is very, very small. And we believe that to be the case because most advertisers that have DVRs are actually watching more television. And back to what I said before, today, 98% of all television viewing still does exist in its linear stream. Fast forward 3 years, that's going to be down to 85%, which is why we're starting to couple together all of these various different data sources so we can accurately measure the reach, the frequency, the GRP, for lack of no other metric, across a variety of screens. And we're seeing a lot of the major television networks, and you'll hear a little bit about this in some upcoming presentations, on doing just that. That's what advertisers are asking for. That's what advertisers want. And that's, believe it or not, that's what all the major agencies are supporting. Because buying in silos doesn't work anymore. And we do that on our side, at the agency side, it happens on the client side, it happens on the publisher side, and part of the reason why coming to this event is so exciting for me is I see people here from all ends of the supply chain, and that's very important. So getting back to the set-top box data beyond just commercial avoidance, we're actually able to measure social activity within a particular program or in a particular ad. So we can look at an ad on Network A versus our ad on Network B, and we could determine that the ad on Network B generated 450% times the social responses. Social responses defined as looking at Facebook communities, Twitter, all the various different blogs out there. Now, that's not going to completely change the television business, but it is going to start to give us some additional input and some additional data towards what the future economics are going to be on television. Because when you fast forward 10 years, it is not just going to be a Nielsen rating system, across the entire board. It can't. It gets far too complicated. We're also, for the first time, able to really look at the association and the relationship between somebody viewing a television spot and what they did online afterwards, right? We've been able to do it sort of from a back door over the past several years, but I can tell you right now, in certain systems, I saw this television ad A, and within 6 hours, that viewer logged on to that brand's website, or that brand, or searched a particular query in a Google search engine, right? For the first time in our business, we're able to really start to understand the relationship between television advertising and its direct impact to the internet. And what we are recommending to all of our clients as we lead into this upcoming television upfront is that we look at all this data and we put it into a giant pool and we start to continually analyze and optimize our media schedules based on the data that we have. And that's really, really very, very important. Everything I talked about today, it's here, it's now, it's real, and it's happening. They're not just pipe dreams anymore. They're not just visions from a bunch of technologists. They're actual real applications. And that I can't stress it enough, and we're stressing it enough ourselves. I mean, over the next 2.5 months, we go around to every single one of our major advertisers with a 3-hour presentation on what to expect from the television/video marketplace over the next 6 months. 45 minutes of that discussion is focused 100% on this type of stuff, how we should be navigating the multi-screen video environment. How should we be measuring it? How can we make our television ads more accountable, more interactive, and how we can use set-top box data to join everything together to improve our ROI. Because at the end of the day, improving return on investment is really the most important part of our business. And we believe we can do that by properly managing frequency across the various screens, improving the way in which we target beyond the silly Nielsen demography, and giving the viewer the ability to interact and engage further with our particular brand. So I see that there's 15 seconds left, so I'm gonna stop right now before I go over time. But if there's any questions,
let's give Michael a big hand.